What's going on, everybody? Hope you and your loved ones are well. Some updates and information regarding Edu Hustle and Ancient Baby Brand. First thing, shout outs to everybody who participated in the Edu Hustle conference through the Clubhouse audio app. If you missed it and you want to go back and get the information, if you're on Clubhouse, you can go to my profile. It's Cedric Scott or at CEDDS1 at CEDS1. And the first club in my bio, Edu Hustle, is where you can get all the recordings. You can also go directly to eduhustle.org, eduhustle.org, and you can get all the recordings there. They are uploaded directly to the Edu Hustle YouTube page. We had a range of speakers on some amazing topics like social emotional learning, the arts, even an entrepreneur and coach who runs a highly profitable private school and is teaching other people to do the same. Also, kind of on the heels of the Edu Hustle conference, my good brother Dennis Ocampo and I have decided to launch the Edu Hustle Podcast. It will be dropping every Wednesday, so be on the lookout for that. You can currently find it on Spotify as well as the Edu Hustle YouTube page. Make sure you subscribe there and get the information. It's going to be amazing. We both work in ed tech, so talking from that lens, but then also continuing to build on general information that educators, entrepreneurs, edupreneurs can use. So that's going to be amazing. We're going to have some great guests come on and do some interviews. And just one mention about Edu Hustle in particular that I don't necessarily share often. The idea of it and the execution of creating the group, it started as a Facebook group and a club on Clubhouse. It actually all came about while I had COVID and I was away from my family for 2 weeks. So though it was extremely difficult, of course, being away from my wife and from my son, considering, well, what can I do to make this as positive as possible, right? And provide something of benefit to other people. And with that, Edu Hustle was born. So I don't know how many people actually know that story, but yeah, it started when I had COVID and I was just in quarantine and trying to figure out what was next. I had the idea already, but decided to execute on it. And I think it's been a good decision thus far. We have had people who have landed new positions, made connections, and just overall improvements in terms of the educator community. So thank you to everybody who is a part of Edu Hustle. We appreciate you. If you want to join the Facebook group, feel free to check it out at eduhustle.org. You can join, not a problem. We are currently at a little over 1,200 members and continuing to grow every day. So thank you all, and much love to the Edu Hustle family. Stepping a little bit away from Edu Hustle and thinking about Ancient Baby Brand, in particular melanated mathematics. Some new developments on the financial literacy content are somewhat of a box set of the resources. So shout out to my wife, Andrea, for the idea where I basically took the financial literacy packs, put them into one book, and then also the supplemental support resources and put them into another book. So start with this one. So this financial literacy bundle is going to include the 3 financial literacy packs. The first one being Managing Money with Mindful Michael. The second one being Real Estate with Resourceful Rissa. And the third is Stocks with Studious Stacy. So teaching our kids financial literacy, but also with Black history and solid representation infused. So for example, in Managing Money with Mindful Michael, the first task actually talks about purchasing groceries from a Black-owned grocery store in Philadelphia called West Philly Produce. The cool thing is that I've actually had a family who purchased this and went to that grocery store to follow up and actually see what it looked like and make it a little bit more real and practical. So that's just something interesting to check into. Also with real estate, talking about something as practical as Harlem, New York, right? We know Harlem to be a mecca for Black culture and Black history, right? When we think about the 1920s, we think about the Harlem Renaissance, but before that, it wasn't necessarily that for Black people. A Black real estate agent by the name of Philip Payton Jr. is actually someone who assisted in that shift because he was able to secure sufficient housing for Black people in another area and relocate them to Harlem, which then led to things like the Harlem Renaissance and it being the Black cultural hub that we know today. Every single task within this book has what we call a melanated memo, those pieces of Black history that lead into the actual task. Of course, the content is led by our characters, so you can see Mindful Michael right there. This is Managing Money, and you get the melanated memo, which will lead into the tasks, right? Talking about buying at a Black-owned grocery store, West Philly Produce, and even putting your money into a Black bank. And then getting to Resourceful Rissa, talking about real estate, talking about ownership, becoming a landlord, all those things that we should begin to instill in our youth and our children very early to get them in the wavelength of thinking of how important it is to actually own, to actually be the one who holds the asset and how valuable it actually is. When we're talking about real estate, we're talking about property, whether it has a building on it or not, even talking about land. And then finally here with Studious Stacy, talking about stocks, getting a basic understanding of the market and investing, from learning what a ticker symbol is all the way up, looking at some basic charts and being able to say whether the asset is going up or going down, right? So a lot of this information is things that I know I wasn't necessarily taught growing up, wasn't exposed to. So I figured, why not help with our youth and get them exposed to it right now in whatever way that I can. So that's where we got supports there. But then with the support resources, within here is going to be all of the things that students can actually cut out and have as tangible resources and information that they can use on a regular basis, whether it's with the financial literacy packs or just for some other or useful benefit. So what you're going to have in here is going to be first the melanated money, right? You got your 1s, 5s, 10s, 20s, 50s, and 100s. So not only do you have the money that you can cut out and use for whatever reason, whether it's just for play money or trying to figure out, how much change would I get back at the store, you also have the representation. Again, all of the content, all of the imagery, the visuals, the art was produced by Black artists. Proud to say that I commissioned Black artists to provide all of the artwork for melanated mathematics, because we understand how important representation really is, right? We hear representation matters. Not only does representation matters for those of us that are looking at it and see ourselves, but also for other people. That's the concept of mirrors and windows, right? Our children need mirrors. They need to see themselves in the content and in the information. There's also some benefit to seeing windows. So for people who might ask, well, is that only for Black students? Is it just for Black families? No, right? Because we benefit from seeing each other. We're always talking about diversity and inclusion, but are we really actually living it? And then the final piece is within the same support resources, you're also going to get these financial vocabulary cards. 68 of these cards will be in this book that you can cut out and actually have students review, study, and learn financial terminology as well as actual context. So at the top, you'll notice that there is going to be the financial term, right, with a definition. And then on every card, you're going to have one of our characters. And then at the bottom, which is really important, is an actual example, right? Something contextual where they are using that term in a situation or in a scenario. And many of those scenarios, again, going back to the premise of melanated mathematics being math and financial literacy content in the context of Black history and culture, a lot of these examples are going to have Black history in them, right? Again, 68 of the cards that can be cut out, all in alphabetical order. Again, you can get them in paperback or PDF. If you want the direct PDF sent to your email, you can print it off, upload it into whatever system you're using, annotate on it, whatever you want to do, you can do that. I will say that PDF is actually cheaper too, so if you're looking to be cost effective, you might want to go that route. But then last but not least, we definitely still have our kindergarten through 5th grade math workbooks. So notice that they're written in an overlapping model for differentiation purposes. You might want to scaffold up, give your child the next level, 30 to 35 tasks in every single one of these workbooks. Again, you got your artistic representation from Black artists. And as you go through, things will get a little bit more complex toward the end. And then, of course, finally, you'll have your answer keys at the back. Same thing with the financial literacy content. So up until this point, there's been a great response. Thank you for everybody who's been supportive of Ancient Baby brand. Everybody who's contributed, you are actually making an investment whenever you support, whether it's actually purchasing products or content or just sharing the information. The share button on our social media is free, but you're actually adding digital currency directly to us, so we appreciate it because we're getting more eyes on the brand and on the mission, which is ultimately to support, give back, especially through education. So thank you all very much. Continue to take care of yourself and your loved ones. Know that you are appreciated. Peace and love.